October 4th, 1997, 7:18 p.m., Charlotte, North Carolina. Security camera 7A records a man in navy blue Loomis Fargo uniform pushing a steel dolly through the vault corridor. The dolly carries 14 duffel bags, each one stuffed tight. The man stops at camera 7A, looks directly into the lens, and waves. Then he smiles. His name is David Scott Gaunt. In 37 minutes, he will drive away with $17,300,000. No alarms will sound. No guards will stop him. No weapons will be fired. The largest cash theft in American history begins with a wave and ends with that smile. This is how trust becomes evidence. Before we get into it, don't forget to like and subscribe and hit hype to boost this episode. Drop a comment below with your city or country. I'm always curious where viewers are joining from. David Scott Gaunt, 27 years old, lives in a rented trailer in Kings Mountain, North Carolina. His address, 53 Stewart Wood Drive. His salary, $8.15 per hour. His shift, 10 hours, 5 days per week, moving money he will never own. Gaunt works as vault supervisor for Loomis Fargo and Company, one of the largest armored car services in the United States. Every day, he counts Federal Reserve notes bundled in heat-sealed plastic wraps. $20 bills, $50 bills, hundreds. The money arrives from banks across Charlotte. Gaunt sorts it, logs it, and loads it into armored trucks for transport. He has been employed by Loomis Fargo for 8 months. His background check shows no criminal record. His military service record lists him as reliable. His supervisor describes him as quiet, punctual, and unremarkable. But David Gaunt has one advantage his employers never considered. He knows exactly how much money sits in the vault every night. He knows which cameras record which angles. He knows that after 6 p.m., no security guards remain on site. He also knows Kelly Campbell. Kelly Campbell, 25, works in the same Loomis facility. She processes paperwork, answers phones, and files transport requests. She is married with 2 children. She is also Steve Chambers' childhood friend. Steve Eugene Chambers, 28, lives in Lincoln County, North Carolina. His criminal record includes check fraud, forgery, and theft by deception. His current employment status, unemployed. His current residence, a single-wide trailer worth $12,000. Steve Chambers has spent most of his adult life planning small-time cons. Fake checks, stolen credit cards, insurance scams. None of them made him rich. All of them taught him the same lesson. The best crimes happen from the inside. In August 1997, Kelly Campbell reintroduces David Gaunt to Steve Chambers at a backyard barbecue. They drink beer and talk about work. Gaunt mentions his job at Loomis. Chambers listens carefully. 2 weeks later, Chambers says to Campbell, "You don't have to rob a bank if you already work inside one." The seed is planted. September 12th, 1997, 2:30 p.m., Gaston County, North Carolina. Steve Chambers drives his 1985 Chevrolet Camaro to the Loomis Fargo facility on Suttle Avenue. He parks across the street in a Hardee's restaurant parking lot and watches the building for 3 hours. Chambers observes the arrival and departure of armored trucks. He counts 12 security cameras mounted on the exterior walls. He notes that the loading dock faces away from the street and cannot be seen by passing traffic. Most importantly, he notices that the building appears empty after 7 p.m. No lights in the windows. No security guards in the parking lot. No patrol cars making routine checks. That evening, Chambers calls Kelly Campbell and asks her to gather information about David Gaunt's work schedule, his vault access procedures, and his personal financial situation. Campbell agrees to help. September 15th, 1997. Kelly. Campbell approaches David Gaunt during their lunch break and begins asking casual questions about his job responsibilities. She asks how much money the vault typically contains. She asks what time he finishes work each day. She asks whether security guards remain in the building overnight. Gaunt answers every question without suspicion. Campbell is a co-worker and a friend. He sees no reason to withhold information. Campbell learns that Gaunt works alone in the vault after 6 p.m. every day. She learns that the building has no overnight security personnel. She learns that the vault contains approximately $26 million on October 4th, the day before a scheduled Federal Reserve pickup. She reports this information to Steve Chambers. September 18th, 1997. Kelly Campbell invites David Gaunt to dinner at her apartment. Her husband is working a late shift at the Ford dealership. Her children are staying overnight with their grandmother. Campbell cooks spaghetti and opens a bottle of wine. During the meal, she mentions that Steve Chambers has been thinking about ways to make money quickly. She tells Gaunt that Chambers has experience with financial schemes that don't hurt anybody. Gaunt asks what kind of schemes. Campbell tells him that Chambers will explain everything at a private meeting. She asks whether Gaunt would be interested in hearing Chambers' ideas. Gaunt says yes. September 24th, 1997, 7 p.m. Cracker Barrel Restaurant, Gastonia, North Carolina. Steve Chambers, Kelly Campbell, and David Gaunt meet in a corner booth at the back of the restaurant. Chambers orders coffee and begins outlining his plan. The target is the Loomis Fargo vault on October 4th, 1997. October 4th is a Saturday. October 5 is a Sunday. The Federal Reserve will not discover the theft until Monday morning, October 6th. That gives them a 40-hour head start. Chambers explains that Gaunt will work a normal shift on October 4th. After the other employees leave, Gaunt will load cash into duffel bags and place the bags in an armored truck. He will drive the truck to a predetermined location and transfer the money to Chambers and Campbell. The plan requires no weapons because Gaunt has legitimate access to the vault. It requires no violence because the building will be empty. It requires no breaking and entering because Gaunt possesses authorized keys and security codes. Chambers estimates they can steal $2 to $3 million without triggering immediate detection. The money will consist of old $20 bills scheduled for Federal Reserve destruction. Those bills are more difficult to trace than new currency. They will split the money equally, approximately $700,000 each. Gaunt will flee to Mexico immediately after the theft. Chambers and Campbell will remain in North Carolina and spend their shares carefully over several years. Chambers has researched Mexican extradition laws. He tells Gaunt that Mexico does not extradite criminals for nonviolent theft crimes. Gaunt will be safe from prosecution as long as he stays out of the United States. Gaunt asks about security cameras. Chambers explains that Loomis Fargo cameras record continuous footage but do not broadcast live feeds to monitoring stations. The footage is only reviewed after an incident is reported. By the time investigators watch the recordings, Gaunt will be in Mexico. Gaunt asks about alarm systems. Chambers explains that Gaunt's authorized access will not trigger any alarms. The theft will appear to be an inside job only after investigators examine the security footage. Gaunt asks about FBI investigations. Chambers tells him that federal agents will focus their search in the United States. Mexico has thousands of American expatriates living under false identities. Gaunt will blend in easily. The plan sounds perfect because it exploits Gaunt's legitimate access and the company's trust in its employees. Chambers gives Gaunt 1 week to decide. He tells him that the opportunity will not come again. October 1st, 1997. David Gaunt calls Kelly Campbell and tells her he will participate in the robbery. Campbell reports his decision to Steve Chambers. Chambers immediately begins preparing for Gaunt's betrayal. He has no intention of sharing $17 million with anyone, but first he needs to execute the theft. And for that, he needs David Gaunt alive. October 4th, 1997, 9:01 a.m., Loomis Fargo Facility, Charlotte, North Carolina. David Gaunt arrives for his final legitimate shift. He badges L into the building using employee card number 4471. The computer system logs his entry at 8:57 a.m. Gaunt's co-workers notice nothing unusual about his behavior. He processes paperwork, answers phone calls, and jokes with Kelly Campbell during their morning break. His supervisor, Janet Estep, later tells investigators that Gaunt seemed relaxed and normal. At 11:30 a.m., armored trucks begin delivering Saturday deposits from 17 banks across Charlotte. The trucks arrive every 30 minutes throughout the day. Each delivery contains between $50,000 and $2 million in cash. Gaunt processes each delivery according to standard procedures. He opens the sealed bags, counts the contents, and logs the amounts in the computer system. By 4 p.m., the vault contains $26,300,000. Most of the money consists of damaged $20 bills from ATM machines and retail businesses. The bills are dirty, wrinkled, and worn. The Federal Reserve will incinerate them on Monday morning. At 4:30 p.m., Janet Estep leaves for the weekend. She tells Gaunt to finish processing the final delivery and secure the building before leaving. At 5:15 p.m., the last co-worker departs. David Gaunt is alone in the building with $26 million and 12 security cameras. 5:45 p.m., Gaunt locks the administrative offices and returns to Vault 7. He begins selecting cash bundles from the destruction pile. Each bundle contains $2,000 in $20 bills and weighs approximately 4 ounces. Gaunt needs to move 4,300 bundles to reach $17 million. Total weight, approximately 1,075 pounds. But he doesn't count carefully. Adrenaline affects his judgment. He grabs bundles randomly and stuffs them into 14 large duffel bags. Some bags contain more money than others. Some contain $50 bills mixed with 20s. 6:40 p.m. Gaunt completes his paperwork and prepares to set the building alarm. According to company protocol, he should activate the security system and exit through the front entrance. His departure time should be logged by the computer system. Instead, Gaunt walks back to the vault. 6:45 p.m. Gaunt begins moving the duffel bags from Vault 7 to the loading dock. Each bag weighs between 80 and 160 pounds. He uses a steel dolly to transport them. The loading dock contains 3 armored trucks, a 1989 Ford E350, a 1990 Ford E350, and a 1992 Chevrolet van. Gaunt chooses the 1990 Ford because it has the largest cargo capacity. 7:05 p.m. Gaunt loads the first 7 duffel bags into the armored truck. The bags fill half of the cargo space. He realizes he has packed more money than expected. 7:18 p.m. Security camera 7 and I records Gaunt pushing the dolly with the remaining 7 bags past the camera mounting point. He looks directly into the lens, waves, and smiles. Later, FBI behavioral analysts will study this footage frame by frame. They will conclude that Gaunt's smile indicates confidence rather than nervousness. He believes his plan will succeed. 7:22 p.m. Gaunt loads the final 7 bags into the armored truck. The truck now contains 14 bags with a total weight of approximately 2,300 pounds. Gaunt does not know exactly how much money he has stolen. He estimates $2 to $3 million based on Chambers' calculations. The actual amount is $17,300,000. 7:31 p.m. Gaunt starts the armored truck and drives toward the exit gate. The gate opens automatically when it detects the truck's radio transponder. Security camera 12A records his departure at 7:31:18. No alarms sound, no lights flash, no sirens wail. The theft appears to be a routine armored car departure. Gaunt turns left on Subtle Avenue and drives toward Interstate 85. The truck's GPS system tracks his route, but the signal will not be monitored until Monday morning. 7:48 p.m. Gaunt arrives at Moxville Storage, a self-storage facility in Davie County, North Carolina. Steve Chambers rented Unit 47 3 days earlier using the false name Mike McKinney. Kelly Campbell waits in the parking lot, driving a rented red Mazda sedan. She rented the car using her real name and a valid credit card. Later, this decision will help FBI agents trace her involvement in the crime. Steve and Michelle Chambers arrive in a white 1995 Chevrolet van. They purchased the van on October 1st for $6,000 cash from a dealer in Statesville. The storage facility has no security cameras and no night security guards. 7:52 p.m. The 4 conspirators open the back of the armored truck and begin transferring the duffel bags to the Chevrolet van. Each bag requires 2 people to lift safely. During the transfer, they discover the massive scope of their theft. The bags contain much more money than Chambers had estimated. Some bags are so heavy they split open, spilling cash onto the ground. Michelle Chambers later tells FBI investigators, "We couldn't believe how much there was. Steve kept saying we hit the jackpot. Kelly was crying. David looked scared." The actual count reveals $17,300,000. After recovering from their shock, they decide to proceed with the original plan. 8:30 p.m. The transfer is complete. Chambers gives Gaunt $50,000 in cash and a fake North Carolina driver's license. The license identifies Gaunt as Michael McKinney, age 29, address 1247 Williamson Road, Charlotte. Chambers tells Gaunt to drive to Mexico immediately. He promises to send Gaunt's share of the money through Western Union transfers over the next several months. He claims this gradual distribution will avoid suspicion from federal investigators. Chambers also gives Gaunt a handwritten list of Western Union locations in Mexican tourist cities. He tells Gaunt to check these locations weekly for money transfers sent to Michael McKinney. 8:45 p.m. David Gaunt abandons the Loomis armored truck in the parking lot of a Harris Teeter supermarket in Cornelius, North Carolina. He transfers his $50,000 to his personal vehicle, a 1988 Toyota pickup truck. Gaunt drives south on Interstate 77 toward the Mexican border. His destination is Coatzacoalcos, Veracruz, a port city on Mexico's Gulf Coast. Chambers selected this location because it has a large population of American oil workers and retirees. Steve and Michelle Chambers drive the Chevrolet van to their trailer in Lincoln County. They park the van in their backyard and cover it with a blue tarp. Kelly Campbell drives home to Kings Mountain and goes to bed. She tells her husband that she worked late at the office. October 5th, 1997, 6:30 a.m. David Gaunt is 400 miles south of Charlotte, driving through South Carolina on Interstate 95. He stops for gas in Savannah, Georgia, and pays with cash. In Charlotte, Loomis Fargo employees arrive for their Saturday morning shift and discover that David Gaunt never activated the building alarm system. His employee card shows an entry time of 8:57 a.m., but no exit time. They find his 1988 Toyota pickup truck in the employee parking lot. They do not find David Gaunt. At 7:15 a.m., Loomis Fargo Security Chief Robert Caldwell enters Vault 7 and discovers that most of the cash is missing. An immediate count reveals that approximately $17 million has been stolen. The only money remaining consists of higher denominations that were not scheduled for Federal Reserve destruction, $100 bills, $500 bills, and $1,000 bills. Total value, $12 million. At 7:22 a.m., Caldwell contacts the FBI Charlotte Division and reports the theft. Special Agent John Wydra takes the initial call and immediately recognizes the significance of the crime. $17 million represents the largest cash theft in American history. By 9 a.m., 17 FBI agents are assigned to the case. The investigation receives priority status and unlimited resources. The first step is reviewing the security footage. But what investigators find on camera 7A will shock them. David Gaunt didn't sneak out with the money. He waved goodbye. October 5th, 1997, 10:30 a.m., FBI Charlotte Division Headquarters. Special Agent John Wydra reviews 12 hours of security footage from the Loomis Fargo facility. The cameras recorded continuous video from Friday evening through Saturday morning. The footage reveals that David Gaunt worked alone in the building from 5:15 p.m. until 7:31 p.m. on October 4th. No other individuals entered or exited during that time period. Camera 7A shows Gaunt moving 14 duffel bags through the corridor at 7:18 p.m. He pushes a steel dolly loaded with bags and looks directly at the camera. Then he waves and smiles. Wydra has investigated bank robberies for 12 years. He has never seen a perpetrator wave at security cameras during a theft. Camera 12A shows Gaunt driving armored truck 351 out of the facility at 7:31 p.m. The truck's route can be tracked using the onboard GPS system, but the signal was not monitored in real time. Wydra orders agents to locate the abandoned armored truck immediately. At 11:45 a.m., agents find truck 351 in the Harris Teeter parking lot in Cornelius. The truck is empty. The doors are unlocked. The keys are missing. Wydra examines the truck for fingerprints, DNA evidence, and trace materials. The investigation reveals that Gaunt left no useful forensic evidence. He wore gloves during the theft and wiped down all surfaces. But Gaunt made one critical mistake. He left his personal vehicle in the Loomis employee parking lot. Agents searched the 1988 Toyota pickup truck and discover Gaunt's wallet, his spare house keys, and a bank statement showing his checking account balance, negative $47. The evidence suggests that Gaunt fled the area immediately after abandoning the armored truck. At 2 p.m., FBI agents obtain a federal arrest warrant charging David Scott Gaunt with bank larceny, a crime punishable by up to 20 years in federal prison. At 4 p.m., agents interview Gaunt's neighbors in Kings Mountain. The neighbors report that Gaunt's trailer appeared empty since Friday night. His newspaper and mail are accumulating. His lights have not been turned on. At 6 p.m., agents interview Gaunt's co-workers at Loomis Fargo. Kelly Campbell tells investigators that Gant seemed normal during their Friday shift. She claims no knowledge of his whereabouts or his motives for the theft. Campbell's statement is recorded and filed as evidence. Later, inconsistencies in her story will lead to her arrest. But on October 5th, agents have no reason to suspect Campbell's involvement. The security footage clearly shows Gant working alone. The FBI investigation focuses on finding Gant and recovering the stolen money. Agents assume he is traveling alone and spending the cash gradually. They are wrong on both counts. 50 miles away, Steve and Michelle Chambers begin transforming $17 million into a lifestyle they have never imagined. October 6, 1997, Steve Chambers drives to Crown BMW dealership in Charlotte and examines a white 1994 BMW 635 CSY. The asking price is $43,000. Chambers tells the salesman, Robert Morrison, that he wants to pay cash. Morrison asks about financing options. Chambers pulls out a grocery bag containing $100 bills and places it on Morrison's desk. Morrison later tells FBI agents, "I've sold cars for 15 years. Nobody pays that much cash unless they're drug dealers or lottery winners. Steve told me he won the North Carolina lottery." Chambers drives the BMW home and parks it next to his $12,000 trailer. His neighbors notice the contrast immediately. October 8, 1997, Michelle Chambers drives to Belk Department Store in Gastonia and spends $6,000 on clothing, jewelry, and household items. She pays with $100 bills and tells the cashier that her family recently inherited money from a deceased relative. The cashier, Jennifer Williams, later tells investigators, "She bought everything she looked at: dresses, shoes, purses, perfume. She didn't even check the prices." October 10, 1997. Steve and Michelle Chambers visit Cramerton Realty and meet with agent Kathy Coca. They express interest in purchasing a house at 503 Stewart Wood Drive, a 3,200 square foot brick home with 4 bedrooms and 3 bathrooms. The asking price is $635,000. Coca shows them through the house and explains financing options. Steve Chambers interrupts her presentation and says they want to pay cash for the full amount. Coca later tells investigators, "I've sold houses for 20 years. I've never had anyone pay that much cash without financing. When I asked about their income source, Steve said they won the lottery and inherited money from Michelle's grandmother." October 12, 1997. Steve Chambers deposits $9,000 into his checking account at First Union Bank. Federal banking regulations require financial institutions to report cash deposits exceeding $10,000. Chambers believes he is avoiding detection by depositing slightly less than the reporting threshold. What Chambers does not understand is that making multiple deposits just under $10,000 is also illegal. The practice is called structuring, and it triggers automatic suspicious activity reports to the Treasury Department. Over the next 3 weeks, Chambers makes 11 more deposits ranging from $8,000 to $9,500. Each deposit generates a suspicious activity report. October 15, 1997, Michelle Chambers hires Elite Housekeeping Services to clean their new house twice weekly. She pays the service $300 per visit in cash. She also hires Landscape Solutions to maintain their yard and install a swimming pool. The landscaping contract totals $45,000 paid in cash. She hires Perfect Fitness to provide personal training sessions 3 times per week. She pays the trainer $200 per session in cash. October 18, 1997, Steve Chambers visits Safe and Lock Company in Charlotte and examines their largest residential safe. The safe weighs 2,000 pounds, measures 4 feet by 6 feet, and costs $12,000. Chambers tells the store manager, Dennis Pike, that he needs to protect valuable documents and jewelry. Pike asks what type of valuables require such a large safe. Chambers answers, "You never know when you might need to protect something important. The safe requires a forklift for delivery and installation." Pike later tells investigators that he had never sold a residential safe that large to someone living in a trailer park. October 20th, 1997, the safe is delivered to the Chambers residence and installed in their trailer. The safe weighs more than the trailer itself and requires additional floor supports. Steve Chambers fills the safe with approximately $8 million in cash, organized in grocery bags and shoeboxes. By October 25th, the Chambers couple has spent over $1 million in 21 days. Their purchases include the BMW, the house, furniture, jewelry, clothing, electronics, and home improvements. But their spending spree creates a paper trail that leads directly to FBI investigators. Meanwhile, 2,000 miles away, David Gaunt sits in a cheap Mexican hotel room, counting the same $50,000 that Steve Chambers gave him 3 weeks earlier. Gaunt has no idea that his partners are living like millionaires while he survives on $50 per day, and he has no idea that Steve Chambers is planning to kill him. November 2nd, 1997, Hotel Majestic, Coatzacoalcos, Veracruz, Mexico. David Gaunt sits in a telephone booth outside the hotel lobby and dials Kelly Campbell's home number. He uses a prepaid calling card purchased at a convenience store. The international call costs $4 per minute. Campbell answers on the third ring. Gaunt asks why Steve Chambers has not sent any money through Western Union transfers. Campbell tells him that Chambers is being careful because FBI agents are monitoring financial transactions. She says Chambers will send money soon, but needs to wait until the investigation loses momentum. Gaunt asks when he can expect to receive his share of the $17 million. Campbell tells him to be patient and trust Chambers' judgment. What Gaunt does not know is that FBI agents are recording the phone call through a court-authorized wiretap on Campbell's home telephone line. The wiretap was installed on October 28th after agents discovered suspicious patterns in Campbell's behavior. During her initial interview, Campbell claimed no knowledge of Gaunt's motives or whereabouts, but co-workers reported that Campbell and Gaunt frequently ate lunch together and appeared to be close friends. Agents also discovered that Campbell had requested vacation time for October 6th, the Monday morning when the theft was discovered. Her request was made on October 3rd, one day before the crime. The wiretap recordings provide the first evidence that Gaunt did not act alone. November 8th, 1997, Gaunt calls Campbell again and reports that his $50,000 is running low. He has been living in Mexico for 5 weeks and estimates he has enough money for 2 more weeks. Campbell promises that Chambers will send more money before Gaunt runs out. She tells him that Chambers bought a house and is trying to make their sudden wealth appear legitimate. During this call, Campbell mentions that Chambers purchased a BMW and hired contractors to remodel their new home. Gaunt becomes angry and demands to know why Chambers is spending money while he struggles to survive in Mexico. Campbell tells him that Chambers' purchases are part of a plan to establish a credible income source. She claims Chambers will explain everything when Gaunt returns to the United States. November 15, 1997, FBI agents analyze the wiretap recordings and identify references to Chambers, BMW purchases, house purchases, and remodeling projects. They begin investigating individuals named Chambers in the Charlotte area. Within 2 days, agents locate Steve and Michelle Chambers at their new address on Stewartwood Drive in Cramerton. Surveillance reveals that the couple owns a white BMW, a large house, and expensive furnishings. Public records show that Steve Chambers has no documented employment history and no legitimate income source that could explain his recent purchases. November 18, 1997, FBI agents obtained federal search warrants for Steve and Michelle Chambers' bank records, credit reports, and real estate transactions. The bank records reveal structured cash deposits totaling over $400,000. The deposits began on October 6, 2 days after the Loomis Fargo theft. The credit reports show that both Steve and Michelle Chambers had poor credit ratings and significant debt before October 1997. After October 6, their credit card balances were paid in full. The real estate records show that they purchased their house with a cash payment of $635,000 on October 12. November 22, 1997, agents interview BMW salesman Robert Morrison, who describes Steve Chambers' cash payment for the 1994 BMW 635 CSY. Morrison provides a detailed description of Chambers and confirms that the purchase occurred on October 6. Agents interview realtor Kathy Coca, who describes the Chambers couple's cash payment for their house. Coca confirms that they expressed no interest in financing and claimed to have won the lottery. November 28, 1997, David Gaunt calls Kelly Campbell and reports that his money will be exhausted within 1 week. He demands that Chambers send $50,000 immediately, or he will contact FBI agents and confess to the crime. Campbell promises to relay his message to Chambers. What Gaunt does not realize is that his threat has sealed his death warrant. December 1st, 1997. Steve Chambers decides that David Gaunt represents an unacceptable risk to the operation. If Gaunt contacts FBI agents, he will expose Chambers' involvement and lead investigators to the stolen money. Chambers concludes that Gaunt must be eliminated. Chambers contacts Michael McKinney, a career criminal from Gaston County with convictions for armed robbery, assault, and drug trafficking. McKinney has served a total of 6 years in North Carolina state prisons. Chambers offers McKinney $30,000 to travel to Mexico, locate Gaunt, and kill him. He instructs McKinney to make the murder appear to be a robbery or drug-related violence. McKinney accepts the contract and agrees to provide proof of Gaunt's death in exchange for payment. December 5th, 1997. Chambers gives McKinney $10,000 in cash and detailed instructions for finding Gaunt in Coatzacoalcos. He provides Gaunt's physical description, his false identity as Michael McKinney, and the names of hotels where Gaunt might be staying. Chambers promises to pay the remaining $20,000 after McKinney provides photographic evidence that Gaunt is dead. December 8th, 1997. McKinney flies from Charlotte to Cancun, Mexico, carrying $10,000 in cash and a Colt .38 caliber revolver hidden in his checked luggage. His travel documents list his destination as Playa del Carmen for a 1-week vacation. December 12th, 1997. McKinney arrives in Coatzacoalcos, but makes no effort to locate David Gaunt. Instead, he spends 5 days drinking alcohol, using cocaine, and paying for prostitutes. The $10,000 is exhausted within 1 week. December 18th, 1997. McKinney calls Steve Chambers from a payphone in Veracruz and claims he cannot locate Gaunt. He requests additional money to continue searching. Chambers refuses to send more money and orders McKinney to return to North Carolina immediately. McKinney abandons the assassination mission and returns to the United States on December 20th. Meanwhile, Kelly Campbell's psychological pressure intensifies. She has participated in the largest cash theft in American history and fears inevitable arrest. Her marriage deteriorates as she struggles to maintain normal behavior while hiding her involvement in the crime. December 25th, 1997. During Christmas dinner with her extended family, Campbell confesses the robbery to her sister, Sandra Floyd. She describes Gaunt's role, Chambers' planning, and her own participation in the conspiracy. Floyd urges Campbell to contact FBI agents and cooperate with their investigation. She warns Campbell that federal prosecutors will offer more lenient sentences to defendants who confess voluntarily. December 29th, 1997. Kelly Campbell calls the FBI tip line and provides information about Steve and Michelle Chambers' involvement in the Loomis Fargo robbery. She tells agents that Chambers recruited Gaunt to steal the money and that Chambers is currently hiding millions of dollars at his residence in Cramerton. But Campbell does not admit her own participation in the crime. She describes herself as an innocent co-worker who discovered the conspiracy after the theft occurred. Her tip provides FBI agents with the evidence they need to obtain search warrants for the Chambers residence. January 3rd, 1998. At 6 a.m., 17 FBI agents execute simultaneous search warrants at Steve and Michelle Chambers' house, trailer, and storage units. The search of their house reveals $3,300,000 hidden under floorboards in the master bedroom. The money is organized in grocery bags and wrapped in plastic sheeting. The search of their backyard reveals $800,000 buried 3 feet underground near their swimming pool. The money is wrapped in aluminum foil and sealed in plastic containers. Agents also discover purchase receipts for the BMW, furniture, jewelry, and home improvements. The receipts total over $1,200,000 and are paid entirely in cash. The evidence confirms that Steve and Michelle Chambers possessed stolen money from the Loomis Fargo robbery, but the search does not locate David Gaunt or the remaining $13 million. January 5th, 1998, Steve and Michelle Chambers are arrested and charged with conspiracy, money laundering, and possession of stolen property. During their arrest, both defendants invoke their right to remain silent and request legal representation. January 8, 1998, FBI agents arrest Kelly Campbell at her residence in Kings Mountain. Faced with overwhelming evidence of her involvement, Campbell immediately confesses to her role in the robbery conspiracy. She provides agents with David Gaunt's location in Mexico and describes Steve Chambers' plan to have Gaunt murdered. Campbell also reveals the existence of additional conspirators, including Michael McKinney and several individuals who helped launder the stolen money. January 12, 1998, Mexican federal police officers, working with FBI agents, locate David Gaunt at the Hotel Maya in Playa del Carmen, Quintana Roo. Gaunt is registered under the false name Michael McKinney and has $437 in his possession. When officers identify themselves and display an arrest warrant, Gaunt does not resist. He tells the officers, "I've been expecting this for 3 months." Mexican authorities initiate extradition proceedings to transfer Gaunt to United States custody. March 2, 1998, David Gaunt is extradited to Charlotte and charged with bank larceny, money laundering, conspiracy, and transportation of stolen property. During his first interview with FBI agents, Gaunt provides a complete confession describing the planning, execution, and aftermath of the robbery. He identifies Steve and Michelle Chambers as the primary organizers and reveals their attempt to have him murdered in Mexico. Gaunt's confession provides investigators with detailed information about the location of the remaining stolen money and the identity of additional conspirators. March 15, 1998, federal prosecutors announced that they have recovered $15,800,000 of the $17,300,000 stolen from Loomis Fargo. Approximately $1,500,000 remains unaccounted for and is presumed to have been spent by the conspirators. The recovery rate of 91.3% represents one of the highest in federal law enforcement history for a theft of this magnitude. But the real punishment for the conspirators is not the prison sentences they will receive. It is the realization that they threw away their freedom for money they barely had time to enjoy. October 26, 1998. Federal District Court, Charlotte, North Carolina. David Scott Gaunt appears before Judge Graham Mullen for sentencing. Gaunt has pleaded guilty to all charges and cooperated fully with federal investigators. Judge Mullen reviews Gaunt's cooperation agreement, his military service record, and letters of support from family members. He also considers the magnitude of the theft and the impact on Loomis Fargo's reputation. Gaunt's defense attorney, James Gronquist, argues for a reduced sentence based on his client's cooperation and genuine remorse. Gronquist tells the court, "Mr. Gaunt recognizes that his actions were inexcusable. He has provided complete cooperation and accepted full responsibility." Federal prosecutor Brian Whistler argues that the severity of the crime requires substantial punishment despite Gaunt's cooperation. Whistler tells the court, "This defendant stole $17 million and fled the country. His cooperation, while appreciated, cannot excuse the magnitude of his crimes." Judge Mullen sentences David Gaunt to 7 years and 8 months in federal prison, followed by 3 years of supervised probation. Gaunt is immediately transported to Federal Correctional Institution Butner in North Carolina to begin serving his sentence. November 12, 1998, Steve Eugene Chambers appears before Judge Mullen for sentencing. Chambers has pleaded guilty to conspiracy and money laundering charges, but provided minimal cooperation with investigators. Chambers' defense attorney, Peter Anderson, argues that his client was not the mastermind of the conspiracy and deserves consideration for his family circumstances. Anderson tells the court, "Mr. Chambers has 2 young children who depend on him for support. His family will suffer greatly during his incarceration." Prosecutor Weisler argues that Chambers was the primary organizer of the conspiracy and attempted to have Gaunt murdered to avoid prosecution. Whistler tells the court, "This defendant recruited David Gaunt, planned the theft, and tried to have his co-conspirator killed. He represents a continuing danger to the community." Judge Mullen sentences Steve Chambers to 11 years in federal prison, followed by 3 years of supervised probation. Chambers shows no emotion during the sentencing and is immediately transported to Federal Correctional Institution Coleman in Florida. December 3, 1998. Michelle Chambers appears before Judge Mullen for sentencing. She has pleaded guilty to money laundering and conspiracy charges. Michelle's defense attorney, Rebecca Harrison, argues that her client was manipulated by her husband and played a minor role in the conspiracy. Harrison tells the court, Mrs. Chambers was influenced by her husband's criminal behavior. She deeply regrets her participation and has learned from this experience. Prosecutor Whistler acknowledges Michelle's limited role, but emphasizes that she actively participated in spending the stolen money. Whistler tells the court, "This defendant helped launder millions of dollars and lived lavishly while David Gaunt struggled to survive in Mexico." Judge Mullen sentences Michelle Chambers to 7 years in federal prison, followed by 3 years of supervised probation. She is transported to federal prison camp Alderson in West Virginia. December 18, 1998, Kelly Campbell appears before Judge Mullen for sentencing. Campbell pleaded guilty to conspiracy charges and provided substantial cooperation with federal investigators. Campbell's defense attorney, Thomas Wilson, argues that his client's cooperation was essential to solving the case and recovering the stolen money. Wilson tells the court, "Ms. Campbell's decision to contact the FBI led directly to the arrests of the other conspirators. Without her cooperation, this case might never have been solved." Prosecutor Whistler agrees that Campbell's cooperation was valuable, but notes that she initially lied to investigators and only confessed after her arrest became inevitable. Whistler tells the court, "This defendant helped plan and execute the largest cash theft in American history. Her cooperation, while helpful, does not excuse her crimes." Judge Mullen sentences Kelly Campbell to 5 years and 10 months in federal prison, followed by 3 years of supervised probation. She is transported to federal prison camp Dublin in California. The sentences reflect each defendant's level of cooperation with federal investigators and their role in the conspiracy. But the real victims of the Loomis Fargo robbery are not the conspirators themselves. They are the families destroyed by greed and the public trust damaged by betrayal. The case becomes known in media reports as the Hillbilly Heist and inspires books, documentaries, and a Hollywood movie starring Zach Galifianakis. But for the people who lived through it, the robbery represents something much more serious. Proof that ordinary people are capable of extraordinary crimes when they believe they can escape consequences. May 14, 2006. David Gaunt is released from federal prison after serving his full sentence. He moves to Jacksonville, Florida, and finds work in construction. In interviews, Gaunt describes the robbery as the biggest mistake of his life. He tells reporters, "I wasn't angry at Loomis. I was angry at my own life." August 2007, Steve Chambers is released from federal prison. His marriage to Michelle ends in divorce. He files for bankruptcy and moves back to a trailer park in Lincoln County. October 2008, Kelly Campbell completes her sentence and returns to North Carolina. She divorces her husband and avoids all media contact. December 2009, Michelle Chambers is released from federal prison. She works as a cashier at a grocery store and lives in a rented apartment. The Loomis Fargo robbery becomes the subject of multiple books, documentaries, and a Hollywood movie starring Zach Galifianakis. FBI Special Agent John Wydra, who led the investigation, retires in 2010. In his final interview, he tells reporters, "They didn't fail because they stole. They failed because they couldn't stop pretending." Security camera 7IA recorded David Gaunt waving and smiling at 7:18 p.m. on October 4, 1997. That footage now resides in the FBI evidence warehouse in Quantico, Virginia. $17,300,000 stolen, 8 people imprisoned, $15,800,000 recovered. The smile lasted 37 minutes. The consequences lasted 11 years. One man learned that freedom cannot be stolen. It has to be earned.